So today we're going to go through 7 techniques for writing melodies in Ableton Live. Now if you don't use Ableton, it's fine because all of these techniques work in any DAW, so you can actually be doing them in FL Studio or Logic X or whichever DAW, so that's fine. So the 7 techniques we're going to go through today are 1. The template technique, 2. The rhythm technique, 3. Transposing and tweaking, 4. Playing the notes from within the chords, 5 is a bit of a switch around. We are going to be creating a chord progression from the melody. So if you already have a melody and you want to make chord progressions, that's what number 5 is about. Number 6 is adding flair and interest to keep your listeners hooked. And number 7 is a bonus, it's my humming technique. Right, let's get to it. Because we are concentrating on the melodies, we're going to keep it simple so we can get through these techniques quickly. So, firstly, we are going to work in A minor, and that is because it's only got white keys, so it's very easy. You're not going to get lost on the keyboard, and you can always transpose the whole song later just by grabbing all the keys and then nudging them up or down a few notes until you've got what you want. Okay, so first we are going to write some chords in and a bass line, so we've got something to write the melody to. We'll do this really quickly, and I'm going to write in all the notes of the key of A minor. And the reason I'm doing this is so we then have a template that we can work to very easily. So that's one whole octave of the key of A minor natural. I'm just going to duplicate that up an octave and down an octave. And then down an octave. In Ableton Live, you can hit fold at this point, and then the only notes showing are from the key of A minor natural, which makes things really easy. So let's quickly write a bass line in. Oops, here's one I made earlier. Just copy, paste that. Firstly, I'll grab all those, put them out to one side of the clip. And there we have our bass line. You can see it's only using notes from within the key of A minor. So let's hear what we've got. Okay, and we are going to use that in our bass instrument as well. Bonus tip now, we are going to fold again, and I'm going to quickly make some chords just by counting up every other interval here and duplicating the notes. So here we have a lovely triad there. Lovely. So we'll just do that for the other ones. Okay, so we've got our bass line, we've got our chord progression. Now let's get to the melodies. Okay, melodies. Technique 1 is using the template technique. Now I showed you already how I used it to make the bass line and the chords. We're going to use exactly the same technique for a melody. So all we're going to do is we're going to copy all the notes that we've got in our A minor scale. Go over to our melody. We've got our melody sound. Turn that off. I'll show you what that does in a minute. And then just paste those notes right here, move them out to the edge of the clip by hitting the left cursor in Ableton, press fold, bosh, only the notes within A minor. And I'll show you how we can write a melody in there. Any note that you choose is going to sound okay, so it's a really easy starting point. And the key to melodies is to keep things simple. You're not trying to wow people with how magnificent you are at music theory. The idea is to come up with something memorable, something hooky, and something enjoyable. As you can see, that might not be the best melody in the world, but it is in tune and it's quite nice actually. And that's using a very simple rhythm, which we're going to look at more in point 2. So you'll notice before we wrote this melody, I had got a little plugin in front of our silence. So I'll just show you what that was. And this technique only works in Ableton Live. So we'll put the scale there. and then you can choose the scale that you work in, and it's much easier to be using a MIDI keyboard anyway. So all we do is, we know we're working in the key of A minor, so we can choose C minor here, or C minor harmonic. And I chose C minor harmonic here because there's no preset for A minor. But anyway, we choose the bass of A. And now any note we hit on our keyboard is going to be in the key of A minor harmonic. So we've deleted our melody, and now let's just have a quick play on our keyboard. So any note I hit is within the key of A minor. So that's a really nice way to quickly come up with a melody. Okay, number 2, the rhythm technique. So we'll just delete this scale plugin. Okay, let's create a clip. We've still got our chords, we've still got our bass line, we've still got our beats. We are going to use the template again, copy, paste. So with melodies, you've got not only the pitch of the notes, but you've got the rhythm that the notes play. So this is an easy way to separate the two and make things a bit simpler. So if you just use the bass note of the key, which is A, hit record. And all I did there was tap in a rhythm on one note. So let's have a look at that. And now what you can do is, you've got the template. I copied over it though. So put it out there. Shift it up an octave by using Shift and up. Now press fold. So now all we have to do is shift the notes that we put in up or down within the scale, and we're going to have a nice melody. And you can be quite random if you want. Of course, if it doesn't sound good, you just shift it to another space, but you're never actually going to hit a wrong note, but use your ears to decide what sounds best for you. See, I think that should go down there. And sometimes big jumps sound a bit unnatural on melodies, so if you're not doing huge jumps most of the time, it sounds more natural. So that is the rhythm technique, tapping out the rhythm first and then moving the notes within your template up or down. And if you don't feel comfortable tapping in a rhythm, you can be even simpler than that. So if you just put a note on every 8th and repeat it on the bass note. All you have to do is the same thing . Just copy and paste that. And this is a bit more of a repetitive motif, this now. And what you can do then is just extend some of them to give it more interest, or shift some of them over a little bit. So let's just copy and paste that. And at the end of a second bar or a fourth bar, it's nice to change things up a bit so it can lead back into the beginning of the melody. So let's listen to that. Lovely. Technique 3 is transposing, then tweaking the dodgy notes. So if you want to experiment a bit, you can grab all your notes and then move them up or down to start on different notes from within that scale. So let's quickly get our template back in again. So just grab them, copy them all, paste them, shift them out to the side, press fold. So now grab all of the notes that you've already written in and just try starting them on a different note in that scale. And of course you can just grab some of them and shift them around. But if you want to use a note that's from outside the scale you're working in, of course you have to press unfold, and then you might have to tweak some notes manually. Like this one I don't like. Okay, number 4 is playing the notes from within the chords. So if you want to keep things really simple, copy and paste those chords here. And now you can hear that we're playing the chords with our melody instrument. But all we're doing in this technique is using some of the notes by deleting the other notes from within the chords, and then we're left with a melody line. And a nice thing you can do is also just shift a note up or down an entire octave to keep things closer together and make it sound a bit more cohesive. We'll delete those, we'll grab them all, put them up an octave. Thing is, we've got long sustained chords, so a nice way to work with rhythm is to contrast the rhythm. So if you've got long sustained chords, you might want a more staccato melody, and if you've got staccato bass line or staccato chords, you might want to use a more legato or smoother melody like this one, which would work with our chords if they were a bit stabbier like this. So having that contrast in rhythm can be a quite nice way to work. So number 5 is making a chord progression from the melody. So let's delete our chords and our bass line and say that we have a melody that we've written that we really like. We don't know what key it's in. So let's work something out now. Okay, that's our melody. Copy and paste that, quantize it. So how do we write a chord progression to that melody? So the first thing we need to do is work out what key we've written this melody in. An easy way to do that is just to write a repeating note in, over and over and over. Grab them all and play your melody and just shift these notes up and down until you can hear what sounds strongest with that melody. So that obviously sounds horrible. So that sounds strongest. So we know that the melody is written in the key of A. And now we need to know whether it's in A minor or A major. And you can usually do that by just hearing, does the melody sound happy or does it sound sad? But if you can't really tell, again, you can just draw in the notes of, say, A minor. And you can see as there are no gaps here in this template, all of these notes are from within A minor. So we know that our melody is in A minor. If there was a gap there, it would have probably been A major. And we could test that by writing in all the notes in A major and doing the same technique. Anyway, now we know what key our melody is in, we can write the bass lines and the chords. And all we do is use the exact same technique that I showed you at the beginning of this video using the template technique to build chords and bass lines. So for number 6, let's get our old bass line and chords back just by undoing. And I'm going to show you how to add flair and interest to your melodies. So using all the techniques that we've employed so far, let's use the rhythm technique, get our melody in. I'm going to make a staccato melody because the bass and the chords are smooth or legato, so this will contrast them. I'm going to quantize it. Okay, now we are going to use the template technique. Starting on the 5th can be a nice strong way to start a melody as well. So we'll go up to the 5th note in the scale. And I'm just changing the end of the sequence to lead it back, as I discussed earlier, into the beginning of the melody. So here is where we are adding the interest. And what you can do is unfold and zoom in a bit and use 16th notes. And you can do little run-ins between the notes. And usually partway between the notes in a big jump will make them kind of run together more easily. So that's one way. Another way is to use pitch bends. I usually choose 12 pitch bend range. So then it's going to be in tune, and then just automate the pitch bend on the longer notes like this. But you need to make sure you go back up to 0 pitch after you've done your pitch bend. And they usually sound good at the end of beats or at the end of bars. So let's try this one. If that's too much, you can try the pitch bend ratio to be 2, and you can actually have the pitch bend come back to 0 just after the hit of the next note, which gives us a nice portamento kind of sound. So we just copy and paste that pitch bend. So that's another way to add interest and flair. And the other way is to simply raise the octave of the second part of the riff. Now this is particularly good in genres like trap or future bass, and it's a bit of a call and response from the low to the high, but because this is so high, I'm going to actually grab it all and move it down an octave. Don't like the pitch bend at the end, so we'll just turn it off. Number 7 is the humming technique. So if you're not very good at playing the keyboard and you want something that's even quicker than the techniques I've shown you, create an audio track in whichever DAW you're using and just record your voice humming along. You don't need a good quality mic. All you need to do is be able to actually record your voice. Dun, 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 dun. Bum, 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 da, 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 dum, ba, da, bum, ba, da, ba, bum, ba, da, bum, 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 bum. And you don't have to be a good singer, but once you have that in, you can then use that as a template and find the right notes with your melody instrument. Dun, dun, dun. And that is using the hum technique, and I use that one a lot. Now I know my singing voice is rubbish, but that's absolutely fine. As long as you can more or less hold a note, that technique's a really quick way. And it's also a soulful way to do it, because then you're doing what instinctively comes to you instead of trying to program it in the piano roll editor. And then you're just translating that into the synth afterwards.